Rose back after a long hiatus. I'm glad to be back. This is really a fun thing to do, and I enjoy it very much. I'm very conscious of the way my face looks, and you'll notice it, so I might as well up right away say, okay, yeah, that's part of why I've been off the grid, sort of, because I have to admit what's going on over here. Yes, I have some health issues. They're not that serious. I have learned a lot about melanoma and cancer on your face. As most of you already know, or can read behind me here, I have a benefit of being a transplant patient. I had a kidney transplant in 2013, and one of the side effects of going that direction in the medical field is you often end up facing some issues with cancer, as well as some other medical issues, and I've had my share, and it makes you pause and wonder, hey, wait a minute, what did I start doing when I went ahead and had the transplant? I thought it was my great life-saving operation to improve my life, and it did, and I'm grateful, but also I'm dealing with some health issues. So this lovely mark here is the latest in a long line of procedures I've had to go through lately to deal with it, and we have some more to do as well. And we're so far a-okay every time we come out looking rosy, but then we find another place that we can chop away at, and that sort of seems the vernacular of most of the people in the field, is we chop away at the body until we get it all. If it stops appearing, then we know we've got it beat, but I think this is 5 or 6 in the count, so we'll keep going. And I think you can see the scar on the bridge of my nose here. That's another friend of mine that allows me to go on living and kicking. And I am happy to be back, and happy to report that I'm back on the air and back at kicking and feeling a little better finally. And I wish I could say I'm looking better, but maybe a little makeup I should try. I have never been one much for makeup, and I'm not sure that I will go that direction, but keep that in mind, and thanks for all your helpful suggestions. And I want to say that I'm still in the trailer, although I'm making moves to move to an apartment, so I'll be leaving the RV life behind, but I will recall or retell some of the travel adventures that I've been through in my varied life. I have just turned 68 years old and been on the road for quite some time. 5 years in Mexico as a solo, traveling alone. That was not RVing, but it was on my own, mostly busing. I loved the busing in Mexico. And I did travel alone, and it was well thought out before I went. And if I was thinking about that going that way today for a single female, I would have to research all over again, because things have changed there, in my opinion. But I really am not up to date on it anymore. But I had some interesting adventures. I think my favorite was, and I had a lot, my favorite was going to the coast and visiting in Puerto Vallarta, lovely tourist town, and I ran into and met some wonderful people from Mexico City who did not speak English. The father and his daughter were interested in the daughter learning to speak English, and when they discovered that I had been a teacher of English as a second language, they invited me immediately into their circle, and I was invited to come to Mexico City, and I went and stayed in their home more than once, and then ended up finding a bivouac down the street where I could pay a little lady a small fee for the use of a bedroom, and I had a go-to in Mexico City that was incredibly economical, and got the opportunity to use that as a kickoff place to visit more of the country. and I pretty much covered most of Mexico in the larger extent, and all of it on foot, if you will, but I used the buses to go from town to town, and I have to speak really highly of that system. It's very economical, and those buses, the long-distance buses, are built with the traveler in mind, and I would travel on an overnight jaunt because the seats would let you put your feet up in a resting position where you could get your blood flow properly, so the next day you could be refreshed for traveling on foot around on land. I mean, I slept on the buses instead of getting a hotel. For when I went from one city to the next, it was my night's rest, and when I arrived, I'd be the tourist again. I love that idea. It saved me a lot of money, and I got to go places I normally wouldn't go because who could afford that kind of travel? Another time, I met a group of retired teachers who were planning a trip, and they traveled to Yucatan and took me along with them because I qualified as a retired teacher, although none of them spoke English, and my broken Spanish wasn't quite good enough at that time to communicate very well, but they were very kind, and I had a wonderful trip. And the Yucatan Peninsula was mind-boggling. I visited, in my mind now I remember mostly Chichen Itza and the cenotes. The cenotes are underground caves where you can swim, and boy, that was just wonderful. I also visited a new site. I can't remember the name of it now, but at that time it had just been newly discovered, one of the pyramids uncovered in the jungles in southern Mexico. We visited there and saw some of it. It's now even more uncovered, and I've read some articles on that site in the National Geographic, and remember fondly putting my feet on those places, and many places I went in Mexico as a solo traveler. And so I'm going to be doing some of that, retelling my tales as the old lady retired in her wheelchair, in her rocking chair or whatever. And I'll be doing that from my newfound apartment. I'm still waiting on getting it, and it may be some time before I do. So I'm still in the trailer, as you can see, but changes are coming. And so those of you who've been in the RV world for a while will be looking at this maybe with some interest and finding that, yes, you too may be facing what to do at the end of the trail. So I'm happy to be back.